Mr. Tomio Sichiri from FAO, India, and also Mr. Bisho Parajuli.
Namaskar, ji. Thank
from
you.
World Food Program. So welcome both of you. And,
thank you very much. Great to be here.
Yeah, most welcome. And we have Professor Ratan Lal has joined. Anybody who can tell me? He has joined.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He has joined, sir.
Okay.
He's admitted. He is there.
Lal is also here. And we are going to have some messages from Professor Swaminathan. So I believe that it's going to be a very good learning experience for all of us. And shortly we will start the program exactly at after 2 minutes. So Dr. A.K. Singh, everybody is ready, everything is ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have already 147 joining the program, and certainly there will be others following us to various social media platforms.
Yeah, Professor Ratan Lal is there, sir.
Yes.
Welcome, sir. Good morning there.
Good evening.
Good welcome.
Thank you.
Morning.
Yes, sir. Yes, Dr. R.B. Singh. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good evening.
Oh, dear.
Good morning.
It's a great pleasure to have all of you on this day. And we thought we should utilize this day fruitfully to learn from all the stalwarts.
ऐसे कर दो बेटा, उसमें बड़ा आता है ना।
So Dr. A.K. Singh, 5 बज गया, so start करा जा सकता है.
Yes, sir. Harita, over to you. You are master of ceremony. Please go ahead.
Esteemed dignitaries, the galaxy of intellectuals, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to one and all.
Yes.
Sir, namaskar.
Yeah, namaskar. So she is stuck somewhere.
I'll just call her, sir. I'll just call her.
Dr. R.B. Singh ji, namaskar. Namaskar, namaskar.
Sorry for the inconvenience, sir. Esteemed dignitaries, the galaxy of intellectuals, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to one and all. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to today's program, An Evening with World Food Laureates, on global food and nutritional security to meet the sustainable development goals during and after COVID-19 pandemic, being organized by the Indian Council of Agricultural Research on the occasion of World Food Day 2021. World Food Day is celebrated every year on October 16 to mark the anniversary of the creation of Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations in the year 1945. On this day, more than 150 countries unite together to raise awareness on issues behind poverty and hunger and ensure the need for food security and nutritious diets for all. This day aims at tackling global hunger and striving to eradicate hunger across the world. World Food Day 2021 marks the 76th anniversary of FAO and is being celebrated with the theme of Our Actions Are Our Future, better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life. At the outset, I would now request Dr. T.R. Sharma, DDG Crop Sciences, for the formal welcome address.
Very good evening to all and good morning to all our distinguished guests from US and other countries. It's my proud privilege to welcome you all at this particular occasion. First of all, I would like to welcome Professor MS Swaminathan, World Food Prize Laureate 1987, MS Swaminathan Research Foundation. Professor GS Kush, World Food Prize Laureate 1996 and Adjunct Professor Emeritus, University of California. Professor Howard Boyce, World Food Prize Laureate 2016, International Food Policy Research Institute, Washington, D.C. Professor S K Wassel, World Food Prize Laureate 2000, formerly Distinguished Scientist, Summit, Mexico. Professor Ratan Lal, World Food Prize Laureate 2020 and Distinguished Professor of Soil Science and Funding Director of the Carbon Management and Sequestration Center, the Ohio State University. And also, I would like to extend my hearty welcome to our Honorable Director General and Secretary, dear Dr. Trilochan Mahapatra, who is the brain behind this whole program. Mr. Tomio Sirachi, Mr. Vishwa Parajuli, and my director colleague from IRI, Dr. A.K. Singh. I would also like to welcome at this occasion different and distinguished Deputy Director Generals of Indian Council of Agriculture Research, Additional Director Generals of Indian Council of Agriculture Research, Vice Chancellors of different state agriculture universities and central agriculture universities, distinguished directors and staff and students of ICAR institutes, fellows of national academies and other academy, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It's really a great occasion for all of us that we are celebrating World Food Day with a very important and elegant topic, an evening with World Food Prize Laureate, discussion on global food and nutritional security to meet the Sustainable Development Goals during and after COVID-19 pandemic. This day is very, very important for all of us. And as told by Dr. Harita, that the member countries of World and Food Organization established World Food Day in November 1979 at the organization's 20th General Conference and called for the observance of World Food Day on 16th October 1981. This decision was ratified by the UN General Assembly on 5th December 1980 and urged governments and international, national, and local organizations to contribute to celebrating World Food Day. Since 1981, World Food Day has been held every year. Last year, we celebrated World Food Day, and you all know that Honorable Prime Minister of India released 17 biofortified varieties at this particular occasion. This year, the World Food Day theme 2021 is Safe Food Now for a Healthy Tomorrow. The Food and Agriculture Organization tweeted on this occasion today morning. This, as per their statement, I quote here, "Today is World Food Day. Our food choices have an impact on food production, our nutrition, the environment, our lives. We can all be food heroes for a better and more sustainable world. Our actions are our futures," unquote. Therefore, we need to reform and build a agriculture research system for higher efficiency and productivity. We need major boost to eat right movement and promoting to use food as a medicine. Now, priorities for agriculture research has become really different during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 has impacted, we all aware that it has impacted aviation, hospitality, and tourism industries because of there was massive job loss. It impacted automobile industries, because of which there was less demand of vehicles. COVID-19 also impacted world from culture has created less demand for office space, and work from home culture is now becoming the rule of the day. And because of that, the construction sector has impacted a lot. Due to large scales reverse migration of workers to their native places, they need work, job, and food. Therefore, agriculture has become most sought for profession. This year, we have record production of 380 metric tons food grain production, and there is a record production of pulses, cotton, and horticulture crops in India. In spite of the COVID, we could achieve this target, and we all know that Government of India is providing free food for more than 80 crore people for the past more than 1 year. Ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 has also reinvented our food matrix, and there was major emphasis on food rich in micronutrients, protein, and soluble fiber. There is now major emphasis on biofortified crop varieties. For example, ICAR has also now released more than 85 biofortified varieties in different agriculture and horticulture crops. So this year has become a very important for all of us, because we have our 5 food laureates, those who are going to share their views on this particular day. And I'm really personally very, very thankful to all of them. And on behalf of ICAR, I would like to welcome all our food laureates and all the participants in this particular webinar. And I wish that this particular discussion will be very fruitful and will lay certain new priorities for agriculture research in India. With these words, I would like to welcome you all. Thank you very much. Over to Harita. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, sir. May I now request esteemed chairman of the program, Dr. Trilochan Mahapatra, Secretary Dare and Director General ICAR, for the opening remarks.
Very good evening, very good morning to everybody who are linked to us today, this program. Professor M.S. Swaminathan, Dr. Khush, Dr. Howard Boyce, Dr. Wassel, Professor Ratanlal, Professor Punjab Singh, Dr. RB Singh, and in fact, many other stalwarts who are linked to us today. Also, Mr. Tomio Sicheri, Mr. Abhisho Prajauli from FAO and World Food Program, respectively. My colleagues, Dr. T.R. Sharma, Deputy Director General Crop Sciences, Dr. A.K. Singh, Director IRI, many fellows of the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, our colleagues from various institutions, the directors of the ICAR institutes, honorable vice chancellors of various agricultural universities, scientist colleagues, colleagues from the Krishi Vigyan Kendra, the farm science centers, the heads of the farm science centers, my own colleagues, other colleagues from ICAR headquarters, all the deputy director generals, the assistant director generals, particularly Dr. D.K. Yadav, Assistant Director General Seed, who has been involved in organizing this particular program, and all the esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, on my own behalf, I extend a very hearty welcome to each one of you. It's already 5:13, and I would be very brief in my remarks at this stage. While we were actually thinking about having a program this year on this day of World Food Day to celebrate the establishment of Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations on this date, we thought about gaining mileage from the experience of the World Food Laureates. And that is the kind of idea with which we focused on this year's program. Many things have been spoken about. Introduction has been already given. And certainly last year, as it was mentioned, that we had Honorable Prime Minister dedicating biofortified crop varieties to the nation, 17 of them. And that was very, very significant for us. We have moved beyond those numbers, and more than 85 varieties we have developed now, which are biofortified for various traits. This year, you know, the theme of the World Food Day program celebration, and this is something which is very, very important for all of us to take note. Dr. Sharma has already spoken about, to re-emphasize that certainly our actions today would define our future tomorrow. And that is what is the message which we would like to spread all across among our colleagues who have joined today, and even those who have not joined. Better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life. What else one can expect from this? And unless there is better production, certainly we can't have better nutrition outcomes. And when we say better production, it is not just enhancing yield, but of course, combining that with nutritional traits. Unless they are mainstreamed, obviously, better nutrition outcomes cannot be achieved. And to achieve those under the changing climate, we need to have a better environment, the environment to support production of the nutritious food, sufficient nutritious food, and also at the same time, guarding against the vagaries of weather, the kind of changes that we see under the climatic patterns, which are negatively impacting the production system. So a better environment would certainly support and sustain production of nutritious food, and in the process support better nutrition outcomes. And all these would certainly lead to better life. So all these we understand, and we certainly would like to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition for our people. and promote sustainable agriculture. So this is our goal, and we have to strive, continue striving for achieving this particular target. Sustainable development goals, as has been rightly highlighted, particularly Sustainable Development Goal 2, aims to do all this: ending hunger, achieving food security, improved nutrition, and sustainable agriculture. All these are targeted under SDG 2. But when we target nutrition, in fact, it cuts across other sustainable development goals, whether it is clean water and sanitation, whether it is education, gender equality, even renewable energy, and various other climate change, various other sustainable development goals are directly and indirectly linked to hunger, poverty, and malnutrition, and eradicating those. So to make progress across the SDGs, it is essential to make progress on the nutrition front. We all know that how the chronic poverty and malnutrition is impacting us at the global level. One estimate says that 720 to 811 million people in the world went hungry in 2020. And this is according to the UN report of the state of food security and nutrition in the world. And chronic hunger, it states that around 118 million people were added in 2020 over 2019. And this is the global situation, and quite scary. Using different indicators, in fact, particularly that tracks year-round access to adequate food, about 30% of global population are lacking access to adequate food in 2020, and which is about 320 million rise over the previous year. And this is partly highlighting the impact of COVID-19 in the year 2020. And in fact, that continues. And in 2021, by July 16, there was another estimate which was, very explicitly stating that agricultural commodity price index remaining highest ever since 2013 on this day, that is 16th July 2021, and which was approximately 30% higher than what was there in January 2020. And individual commodity prices, if we actually see, maize price has gone about 43% as compared to January 2020. And so also wheat and rice prices. So prices are increasing. The chronic hunger is increasing, and access to adequate food is becoming a challenge. And this is what is actually revealed by the Food and Agriculture situation analysis at the global level. And keeping this in mind, and in fact, India is no exception, and India is also having a serious challenge with regard to meeting the Sustainable Development Goals. In fact, before COVID-19, everybody was hoping, and there are several estimates, that India would be meeting the targets on Sustainable Development Goal 2 by 2030. The poverty decline as it is happening, little more than 2% annually. And
voice is not audible.
And is it audible now?
So mute or unmute is there.
Yes, yes.
It's very much
It's
audible,
audible,
sir.
sir.
Please
It's
go
audible.
ahead.
Please
Then
go
we
ahead.
follow up.
It's audible.
So this is what the situation is, that despite the decline in poverty, and we are still facing the challenge of malnutrition, and alleviating malnutrition in this country. I will not go into those details of malnutrition that prevails in this country and the challenges thereof, but certainly some of the actions which are. Can you please put yourself on mute? Mr. Dastagiri. So we have initiated, the country has initiated several actions, and mention was made about Atmanirbhar Bharat kind of programs, enabling people, providing free food grains, along with the pulses. So not only the energy needs are also the protein needs are also met to a large section of the people in the country, and developing and mainstreaming biofortified crop varieties, and particularly increased emphasis on millets, their cultivation and also consumption, and mainstreaming in the process. The nutritious food, to be consumed, to be produced, first of all, to be supplied and to be consumed. And hopefully, there is a kind of a nationwide program on the, a portion of it on the nutrition campaign, which is being carried out by the country. So it's not just one aspect, one-sided story. The emphasis on free, kind of provisioning of various other items, including those which are related to sanitation, providing drinking water, for instance. So various aspects of nutrition and healthy life which is being provided by the country. But obviously the impact should not be visible immediately, so it would take some years to actually realize those impacts. But certainly there are certain impacts quite evident, a long way to go, and unless we continue striving, probably there will be a whole lot of challenges on the way, and we have to all work. And today we are here to listen to, the time is already late, 15 minutes, and we are here to listen to the Nobel laureates from their rich experience. So without taking any more time at this point, how we would certainly request them to highlight how the global agriculture with regard to Sustainable Development Goal 2 and other related goals, how the global community are moving towards achieving those, the challenges thereof, and how do we actually accelerate the processes or bring in changes in priorities, in policies, and bring new schemes, by different national governments, and implement them with urgency, so that we are able to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And in the context of India, what you strongly feel about, and what needs to be really done, and how we can actually move forward. We would like to really listen to all of you, and I would request all others to mute themselves, keep themselves muted, so that we listen to our honored guests and learn from their experiences and build our programs further. So kindly put yourself, all of you, on mute. Only accept the speakers. So I stop here. Thank you very much. And I request, the program to be taken forward. Dr. A.K. Singh.
Thank you very much, sir. Moving on to the next section of the program, the much awaited section, addressed by World Food Laureates. The first speaker of the session, Professor Amnes Swaminathan, a name synonymous to Indian agriculture, a name that doesn't need any introduction. Professor Swaminathan is the architect of Green Revolution in India, the recipient of First World Food Prize in the year 1987 for developing and spearheading the introduction of high-yielding wheat and rice varieties into India during the 1960s, when the country faced the prospect of widespread famine. Professor Swaminathan was supposed to join us this evening. However, for health reasons, he is unable to join us, and he is kind enough to send us his greetings and message, which reads as, "Today is World Food Day. The progress of agriculture is the key to food security. Let us thank all connected with agriculture for their help to keep life in earth possible." Thanking you. Thank you. The next speaker in the session is Dr. Gurudev S Bush, who is a world-renowned geneticist and is considered one of the heroes of rice revolution for his leadership in developing rice strains that enhance the quality and quantity of rice supply in countries facing unprecedented population growth. He shared the 1996 World Food Prize with his mentor, Dr. Henry Beechel, for their unparalleled achievements in enlarging and improving the supply of rice, one of the world's largest food crops. May I now request Dr. G. S. Bush to address the gathering.
Sir, you have to unmute yourself.
Can the organizers do that?
That's
Unmute
not possible.
Dr. Bush.
Roy, just
No,
see
sir.
if you can do. That's not possible.
No, sir, this is not possible. He has to unmute himself, sir.
We can mute, but not unmute from here.
Yes, sir.
The message can be sent, Dr. A.K. Singh, a message can be sent to him for unmuting through your system.
He is able to hear us.
So, sir, can you unmute yourself? Dr. Khos.
Sir, on right hand corner top, there are 3 dots. Just click on that, and then you will have option to unmute yourself. On right hand side top corner, there are 3 dots of your window. Yeah, now you are done, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. There was some problem in unmuting. So I'm glad that with your instructions, I was able to do so. First of all, I am indebted to the organizers for asking me to join this webinar. I am delighted also that you are celebrating 90 years of contributions of ICAR through this webinar. This webinar is being held on the World Food Day, which is very appropriate because the main business of ICAR is food and agriculture, which is Should I continue?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay. ICAR is the oldest organization, and it's admired for its contributions. It's a iconic organization and is very highly respected. Many other NARs have been modeled after ICAR, such as PARC in Pakistan, PCARD in Philippines, to name a few. ICAR has been reorganized. It has been nurtured by our stalwarts like Dr. Swaminathan, Dr. B.P. Paul, Dr. R.S. Parada. It's one of the most outstanding organizations. It has 104 research institutes and 71 agriculture universities, which is a tremendous resource. It has played major role in developing the human resource development for the country. Thousands and thousands of outstanding scientists have been
Yeah, please continue, sir.
Thousands and thousands of scientists have been trained for the country, and many of them are working as faculty members in the most famous universities abroad. So ICAR has played or ushered in the Green Revolution, White Revolution, Yellow Revolution, and Blue Revolution. It has made countries self-sufficient from being a food importer, and it has not only become self-sufficient, it has been exporting more than 6 to 7 million tons of food grains, and it has 80 million tons in food reserves, which is a really tremendous achievement. Food production increased from 50 million tons in 1950-51 to 308 million tons in 1920. Fruits and vegetable production increased from 95 million tons in 1950-51 to 320 million tons in 2019-20. Milk production increased from 17 million tons in 1950-51 to 198 million tons in 2021. Fish production increased from 0.75 million tons in 1950-51 to 13 million tons in 2019-20. Country's population has increased fourfold between 1950-51 and 2019-20. Food production increased sixfold during the same period. This is the result of contributions of numerous scientists who have been trained by the agriculture universities. there have been contributions to human development. For example, availability of abundant and healthy food and public health policies have improved the life expectancy, which has increased from 32 years in 1950-51 to 68 years in 2019-20, which is a really remarkable achievement. Child mortality has been reduced to half during the same period. Poverty has been reduced from 70% in the 1960s to 20% at present, which is a major achievement. Nevertheless, there are some serious concerns about the well-being of humans, human health. 200 million Indians are food insecure because of lack of purchasing power. They are not able to access adequate food because of the purchasing power. Although we have sufficient food, but still 200 million people are food insecure. 40% of the children below 5 years of age are malnourished and are stunted and have poor health when grown up. There are, of course, problems facing the Indian agriculture as well. Stagnant crop yields, soil degradation, stressed water resources, poor crop diversity, great frequency of floods and droughts, more virulent races of diseases and insects. And these problems are being exaggerated by changing climate. Stagnant crop yields are, of course, also related to the soil health, because the plants, the crops don't get the proper nutrition when the soil health is not good. Soil degradation is the result of lack of organic matter. We have generally in India about 0.5% organic matter in our soils, whereas the required amount for good productivity is 3 to 4%. I'm sure Dr. Lal will discuss this issue later. Our water resources are stressed because of extensive pumping from the aquifers, and we all hear news almost every day that the water resources in Punjab, Haryana, other states, Rajasthan, are really extremely stressed. And this problem might even go stressed further because of the climate change. The Himalayas are the water towers for agriculture, and the glaciers in the Himalayas are being affected by the rising temperatures. During the winter, a lot of ice and snow is accumulated. It melts during the summer and provides the irrigation water for our rivers. The retreating glaciers are cutting down the water supplies for the future. Even this year, we had 2 slides in the mountains, and which have affected killed a lot of people. And this is, of course, again, the result of retreating glaciers. This will affect our water supplies even further. We have poor crop diversity, not very sound rotations. For example, you take Punjab and Haryana, wheat and rice, these are the two cereal crops. There is no other crop which is grown between or in some of the years to improve this crop diversity. This is one of the serious problems. The greater frequency of floods and droughts is because of the changing climate. And we have seen this all over the world, more serious floods and droughts, which are, of course, affecting our food supply. Because of the changing climate, there are many virulent races of diseases and insects which are arising, which are developing. And this is a very, very serious problem. So what are some of the remedies for these problems? We have to improve the soil health through conservation agriculture and restore the organic matter in our soils. This will also help sequester the carbon dioxide, which is one of the major causes of climate change. We have improved the efficiency of irrigation. There are technologies for reducing the efficiency of the irrigation, like drip irrigation. Where I live in California, there is not any crop which is not used through drip irrigation. There's no flooding at all. So this is the best use of irrigation water. Unfortunately, we have not used this technology in our country. I was talking with one of the farmers, and he said, I asked him, where did you get this equipment for drip irrigation? He says it comes from Jan company in India. So we have a lot of supply or a lot of availability of equipment for this, but we have to introduce the drip irrigation, at least starting in larger farms where then it could trickle down into smaller farms. Then we need to develop more resilient crop varieties which are tolerant to floods and droughts. And here we used to have to develop the more resilient varieties. We have to use the new techniques like gene editing and selective use of genetic engineering. This is also applies to the development of crop varieties, and mention has been made for development of biofortified crop varieties, which is, I am delighted to hear from Dr. Mahapatra, which several biofortified crop varieties have been released, and we have to emphasize more to develop biofortified crops. One of the biofortified rice varieties, the golden rice, has been approved for cultivation in Philippines recently. That's the first country, and hope our country and many other countries can also utilize this resource, which will be very helpful for improving the public health. We have to use some of the policy options. For example, removing the subsidy on on water irrigation, like free electricity, which is creating a lot of problems as well, because farmers pump the more water than even required. There is a lot of wastage, and this is a misuse of this resource. We have to use selective use of new technologies like genetic engineering and gene editing. And we have to encourage the policies for crop diversification. These are some of the issues which I wanted to bring to your attention, which I feel are important. But the challenges of meeting the SDG goals have been very well articulated by Dr. Mahapatra, and we have the manpower, we have the resources in the country to continue to achieve those goals for achieving the complete food and nutrition security in our country. This is a big challenge. We have the best institutes in the country. We have well-trained scientists. So I have no doubt that we will continue to make progress in these areas for achieving zero hunger and zero malnutrition. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for elaborating on challenges and also way forward. So very rich kind of deliberation. Over to Harita.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for the enlightening message. Next, we have with us Dr. Howard Boyce of United States, who has pioneered the implementation of multi-institutional approach to biofortification as a global plant breeding strategy and founded a new organization called Harvest Plus to pursue this objective. And as a result of his leadership, crops like iron and zinc enriched beans, rice, wheat, pearl millet, and vitamin A enriched cassava, maize, and sweet potato have been tested and released in about 40 countries around the world. Sir, may I now request you to kindly address the gathering.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for this privilege. I've prepared some slides. Is it okay to share my screen?
Yeah. You can stay.
Okay, I'll share the screen. Okay. Great. So I hope you can see my screen okay. So thank you. Thank you for the privilege to speak to you on World Food Day about linking agriculture and nutrition, the role of biofortification and food staples in contributing to dietary quality. So I'm not addressing you from the United States. I'm addressing you from our home in Los Baños, Philippines. Los Baños is the home of the University of the Philippines' premier agricultural university, and it's also the headquarters of the International Rice Research Institute. The two previous speakers, Professors Swaminathan and Kush, have also lived in Los Baños for many, many years, and they've made tremendous contributions to Erie's successes. So since we are meeting on the occasion of World Food Day, let me start with an experience I had on one of my visits to FAO headquarters in Rome. I was waiting to meet someone in the main lobby, and I noticed a small plaque on the wall, and I went over to read it. And here's what the plaque said. In this building, 16th of October, 1945, representatives of 44 nations met and established the Food and Agricultural Organization, first of the new United Nations agencies. Thus, for the first time, nations organized to raise levels of nutrition and to improve production and distribution of food and agricultural products. So I thought when I read the plaque, I said, wow, 75 years ago, policymakers mentioned human nutrition first and agricultural supplies second. What's happened in the meantime? So this is what I want to focus my remarks on, the responsibility of agriculture to provide nutritious foods for the health of the nation. So first, let's try to understand the broad trend of what has been happening in agriculture over the past 6 decades in LMICs and how this is associated with diets and micronutrient deficiencies. This slide shows that population has been growing rapidly, represented by the blue bar, 100% increase. Cereal production, represented by the orange bars, has more than kept pace with population growth. There was a concerted effort, of course, to raise cereal yields, and you all know that this is referred to as the Green Revolution. However, the broad range of non-staple foods did not experience the same increases in productivity. This is represented by the green bars. Pulses are just one example. If you put in other non-staple foods, they'd be very short bars, just like pulses. So I'm an economist, and I'm very interested in what happened to food prices as a consequence of those patterns that I just showed. The chart shows here that cereal prices declined in India by 40% when supply grew faster than population. Then they've gone back up somewhat more recently. However, and this is the main point that I want to make about food prices, again, as shown for price data for India, non-staple food prices have doubled, nearly tripling in some cases. It has become much more difficult for the poor to afford dietary quality. So these are some images and messaging developed by the Philippine nutrition community. The fundamental cause of widespread mineral and vitamin deficiencies is that the poor cannot afford to buy sufficient vegetables, fruits, pulses, and animal products. I do not have time to go into details and statistics about what is called hidden hunger. This comparative picture of brain development under good and poor nourishment gives a visual, intuitive sense of the terrible and somewhat hidden consequences of undernutrition. This simple stylistic diagram makes the point that it is much more cost-effective and sustainable for agriculture to supply a higher percentage of the minerals and vitamins that people need at affordable prices, as represented by the green shaded portion of the rectangles, which represent total mineral and vitamin requirements. The nutrition community has been focused on filling the yellow gap in the diagram with supplements and commercial fortification, not growing the green supply of nutrients from agriculture. So as we look to the future, we can break down the specific activities to be undertaken within agriculture into 2 broad groups. First, those activities which focus on food staples must increase the density of minerals and vitamins. Consumers already eat maximum amounts of food staples. Second, those activities which focus on non-staple foods must seek to increase the quantities eaten. Fundamentally, the second strategy is only possible if incomes can be increased and food prices can be lowered. Both broad strategies need to be pursued simultaneously. Food staples are not dense in minerals and vitamins. However, the absolute intake of minerals and vitamins from food staples is the result of multiplying quantities consumed times the density. The first term in this multiplication, quantities consumed of food staples, is a very high number. Thus, as this slide shows, milled rice in the Philippines provides a very significant proportion of a wide range of minerals and vitamins in Philippine diets. In fact, no single food in the Philippines provides more nutrients than rice. The objective then within the sub-strategy of focusing on food staples is to increase the densities. So I myself have worked for more than 25 years to promote and implement a strategy of biofortification through plant breeding. This picture shows a deep orange maize developed through conventional plant breeding, which is high in vitamin A. But vitamin A, Africans eat white maize, which has no vitamin A, but vitamin A deficiency is widespread. The orange mazes are high yielding and sell for the same price as white maize. Getting Africans to substitute orange maize for white maize in their diets will go a long way toward eliminating vitamin A deficiency at no extra cost to consumers. Several types of biofortified crops are now released in 40 countries and are in testing for release in more than 20 additional countries. Some crops have more iron, some have more zinc, some have more vitamin A. This map simply shows the 63 countries where releases already have been approved or are in testing for release. Biofortification is truly a global activity. Nearly 400 biofortified crop varieties have been released in low and middle income countries. Biofortified crops are being grown by a minimum estimate of 10 million farm households globally. Harvest Plus is now striving to make the numbers of producers and consumers of biofortified crops much higher, in the hundreds of millions. 71 biofortified varieties across 16 crops developed in India are described in this ICAR brochure. And I was very pleased to hear in Dr. Mohapatra's remarks that that number has now gone from 71 up to 85. It's very gratifying to hear. But having started my endeavor to promote biofortification at the age of 42 and now having passed my 71st birthday, more recently I've been reflecting on what agricultural scientists of future generations will be able to accomplish with new tools, some yet undiscovered. I realize now that for biofortification to reach its full potential, it must be relatively easy and rapid to transfer multiple new traits to new varieties. A drawback of biofortification is that to date, all variety releases increase the density of a single nutrient. Use of transgenic techniques, popularly referred to as GMOs, offers opportunities to multiply the benefits of biofortification. My hope is that as these more powerful techniques become available and practical to use, that agricultural scientists will be even more focused than now on adding nutritional characteristics. So to conclude, allow me to relate an experience that I had on a trip to India in September 2013. I was invited by Ashok Gulate, then chairman of the Commission on Agricultural Costs and Prices, to address a group of mid-career agricultural policymakers who were undergoing training at the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration in Mussoorie. As today, my topic in Mussoorie was linking agriculture and nutrition. I knew my audience would not be that aware of human nutrition issues. I just had 30 minutes. I wanted to get their attention. I started by asking the following question to the group. What is more important to you personally, your health or your income? Everyone raised their hands that their health was more important than their income. I said, thank you, and I began my presentation, which emphasized the importance of agriculture in providing essential minerals and vitamins for the nation's health. At the end of my lecture, I then asked a group of agricultural policymakers, when you return to your work, will you give higher priority to productivity and income in agriculture, or will you give higher priority to national health? Please raise your hands to vote. There was some hesitation, but most voted for productivity and income, not nutrition and health. Productivity is very important and it cannot be ignored. Nevertheless, we eat nutritious food to be healthy. Without health, life would be miserable. So I made 15 trips to India between 2003 and 2016 to participate in discussions to implement biofortification in India, also with the participation and passion of my colleagues at Harvest Plus. I would like to extend a very special thank you to Professor Swaminathan, who initiated the early meetings in collaboration with Dr. M.K. Bond, who was then director of the Department of Biotechnology. Professor Swaminathan has done so much to promote linking agriculture and nutrition in India. Thank you again for inviting me to speak. I will unshare my screen. There we go. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Harita, over to you.
Thank you very much, sir, for such a beautiful deliberation and stressing the importance of nutrition and health in life. Next, we have with us Dr. Surender K Wassel, an accomplished plant breeder and geneticist whose decades of research and leadership in improving the productivity and nutritional content of maize has led to the improvement of quality protein maize that resulted in the improvement of the diets of people of the world's most underfed and poorly nourished citizens. Sir, please, the floor is yours.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, sir, we can, please.
Well, I will not talk too much about statistics, you know. This morning I was there at the Indian Institute of Plant Breeding Genetics, and that's where I gave a lecture this morning. In my opinion, most of the mix of problems we have, mix of challenges we have, they are very complex in nature, you know. So I think that ultimately, I feel as plant genetic resources has the power of possible. Power of possible means we can practically solve all the problems provided we have the right kind of strategies. I don't believe in stagnation. I think stagnation is the poor result of breeding strategies. I think, at least in case of maize, I can give you the data from several institutions where they have been working for a long time and they have been making consistent gains at all. I think the thing there is, in my opinion, important thing is, first thing is, you know, like I have worked in cross-pollinated crop, and many experiences which we have in cross-pollinated crop can also be deployed in self-pollinated crop. I think in my opinion, first thing is whatever we do, it has to be pragmatic, it has to be simple, it has to be cost effective, you know, and which can also be deployed from many different scientists at different places. Now, I'm not against the new biotechnology tool, but wherever these facilities are there, definitely we should use it. Now, first, I would like to say the areas where maize breeders have failed. I think while we see like in wheat, rice, sorghum, and few other crops, we have been able to use dwarfing genes very effectively. Unfortunately, in case of maize, we also have a lot of dwarfing genes, you know, but unfortunately, because of the, you know, side effects of very broad leaves, internode very compact, you know, and also very late, very, you know, so they were not used very properly. But I think this is where, in my opinion, the strategy which was used even by CIMET, I don't prescribe to this strategy. I think in this kind of thing, in my opinion, is much easier. I think how to manipulate genetic modifiers of the opaque-2 locus, of the Bricatic-2 gene. Because, like quality protein maize, we have so many problems, but in case of Bricatic-2, there is no lab work in car. All was required was selection of the right kind of phenotype which we can use and make it the very nice type of genotype, very productive. In my opinion, there are some common features which we need to develop in all the crops, which will have multi-purpose advantages. This is something, in my opinion, is very important. And I think we do it in such a simple way that this problem can be solved. Like in maize, I give. Hello.
Mr. Sirajul, Dr. Sirajul, can you put your mic off?
Hello.
Please continue, sir.
Yeah. So in my opinion, first thing was, one thing is very important in all crops is standability. Standability has many side advantages. For instance, case of stalk rots in maize, we have got, pythium, bacterial rot, charcoal rot, so many rots are there, And then we have been working on this problem for so many years. But I think if we put emphasis on standability of the crop, I think we can overcome this problem in a very different way. So I think it will work very well. Same thing is, I think, in case of foliar diseases. I think we need to select for stay green trait. At least in case of maize, my own experience is when we start in breeding, you get all kinds of variation. Even I think the diseases where the frequency of recessive allele is very, very low, they show up in breeding. So I know I have personal experience. We have the tar spot problem in cement Mexico, and we had to spray zinc manim at least for 15 years in order to be able to grow the good crop. And then in breeding in material, we find some lines which were completely clean for this tar spot. So in my opinion, cross-pollinated crop in breeding again should be used as a very important tool, to identify some of the problems which exist, and I think we can solve this problem here. Now, in my opinion, again, as the investment in agriculture are going down, the international agriculture research institutions are not working the same way when I was working or Dr. Kush was working. I think we need to be self-reliant. We need to be not dependent. We need to become more independent in working at our institution. And that will require certainly a change in strategy of doing things. I can tell you in case of maize, there is no dearth of germplasm. Now, China, for instance, in year 2017, received almost about 3,000 lines from CIMET. I personally feel, even in India, I have been personally involved into this. Well, we might have delivered inbuilt lines in terms of monetary terms in millions of dollars. After retirement myself, I have spent $250,000 from my own pocket, to develop QPM materials which are tolerant to inbreeding, or at least 45 different populations, and that was given to the gene bank in Mexico at CIMET. But as a byproduct of this work, which I did after retirement, at least I supplied 2,000 S7 lines to Directed Maize Program and also CIMET Maize Program at Hyderabad. So I think we have supplied a lot of lines. I think there is a problem of a proper utilization of this kind of material. I think now we talk of time jumping strategies. As you know, how in case of maize, we used before, inward line development, test for general combinability, for specific combinability, we have to use predictions and then make those three ways or doubles, then test them. It was 7, 8 to 9 year process. Now it can be done in 2 seasons if we do the right kind of strategy. I think what we needed to do is, which is I think is lacking in many programs all over the world, is there's no effort in developing conscious effort, developing tester lines, from different heterotic groups. If we have the right kind of testers, which are also parent of a hybrid, we can identify new hybrid just in 1 or 2 seasons. So I think this is when we talk of time jumping studies, I give these kind of example, where it is possible to do it, so this way we should do it, emphasize development of more tester, from different materials. Now, thing there is we need a little bit reorganization of maize program, a little bit in my opinion. We have different zones, zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody is doing the same thing. I think we need to identify some useful population, maybe 10 or 15 different heterotic. I'm not talking of 2, like in US. I'm talking of at least every center should have at least 2 to 3 heterotic groups which they should handle it. And then either you use 2 strategies which will give them non-stopical gain. I can guarantee if they do it right way. It will improve the source germplasm. It will have a lot of spin-off products and also the spillovers. It will give you early generation inward lines. It will give you lines which have better combinability. And if you use the right kind of tester, it will also give you the potential hybrids that it can be. So, there cannot be anything more time jumping strategies that we can use in this case. So I think the United States, the strategy which has worked very well, I think the good example is in the Iowa State University, where they have used a reciprocal recurrent selection, where inbreeding is involved, testing for combinability is involved, and then they use now the inbred testers, which is also very important. So it accomplishes many purposes at the same time. And then if you have companion nurseries, when the S1 lines are there, you can test for diseases, drought, or anything you want here. So you improve the source population, you develop early generation line, you identify potential hybrids which are there, you can identify even new testers that are possible. So I think this is the strategy. And then, there is data for the last 40 years which show continuous gains taking place here. So I think this is a stagnation part. I think in case of maize, if we do the right strategy, in my opinion, we shouldn't talk about stagnation. Non-stopical gain, that's what we need to talk. I strongly believe that the national program, whether it's private or public sector, they all should use germplasm of high potential level. And this is where, in my opinion, public sector has a little bit role to play, which is so simple and so less costly. Practically no cost is involved. I think what we need is to, from pedigree population, we should start sending S3 self-bulk to anyone who wants, whether it's public or private. So it's a goodwill work. And I think this will also bring a little bit trust, with the private sector, that we are receiving a lot of material. So I think it's very important if we are interested in increasing the productivity of maize in India. I think we should be able to provide the more high yielding, better potential germplasm to every player in the segregating generation, but they still will have to do their own work to establish lines and then testing whichever testers they have, so that is there. So again, this is one thing I strongly believe, and this will have a multiplier effect. Everybody receives a lot of germplasm and everybody saves at least 4 years of work. That is very important. So this is what I think I would suggest that what should be done over there. Now, if you look at the, going a little bit deviating from this one here, the nutrition, I know is a very important subject. But the thing is, nutrition, unless we develop enough germplasm so that we can work within the germplasm and not going to conversion program. I'm strongly against conversion program. I think if the nutritional programs have to be successful, like in case of quality protein maize, we had almost about 13 gene pools. We have 10 different populations. You know, when I retired, there were at least 45 different types of materials, which I improved for tolerance to inbreeding. And those materials have been deposited in CIMMYT Gene Bank, you know. And then 2000 S1 lines I have made freely available to directed maize program and also the CIMMYT maize program in Hyderabad. So in my opinion is, now the question is utilization of the program. Then I think as a part of the hybrid breeding program, I think we should not talk only about inbred and hybrids. There are a lot of variation variation for stay green characters, lines which were better tolerance to stalk rods or standability for different diseases. I think we should make some synthetics, you know, and then start inbreeding again. Then I think there'll be conscious effort from the same strategy, you know, we will be able to develop materials, you know, which also have resistance to different kind of thing here, you know. I think so. Another thing which I have found from my own experience is for very complex problems, you can solve through simple way. And I give you example in my own work, what I have done here is, you know, important thing in maize is to develop a very strong base of inbred lines from different sources, you know. So basically, whether I was working at headquarters or in Asian program, at least I had about 200 very agronomically good lines as a base, which I tested for normal density, high density, for drought, waterlogging, nitrogen use efficiency, for acid soil, for streak, borers, fall armyworm. So all those different traits. And then I was surprised, you know, these materials have never been selected those traits, but you do find certain frequency of all these tolerances there in those kind of materials here. Two of the best line like acid soil, which is very complex trait to select, you know, you have to maintain certain pH through liming and other things. They found two lines, you know, which they are still using as a tester, you know, which were very good for acid soil tolerance and aluminum toxicity. And so again, so in my opinion, testing and evaluation is very, very important. Unless we do it, I think we will not know what are the attributes these lines are possessing. So that is something is very important. I think in a crop like maize, I think I have defined some definitions myself, you know, which are not there in the books. One is, I believe that we need to develop hybrid-oriented source population, which should have clear-cut definition, which are the germplasm which we want to work, and those should be hybrid-oriented, which have the traits like, you know, good agronomic traits, combinability, tolerance to inbreeding, could serve as pollen parent or, you know, seed parent. So this is something I think, so right now, another area which I think is very important, as I said, is we need to evolve continuously and we need to move towards more sophistication. Now we don't talk about population, we talk about seed parent population and pollen parent population. So I think the resources which we provide for seed parent, there should be more, because seed parent lines are the most important, which will be important for the, you know.
Okay, sir, can you sum up? So that will be good.
So again, in my opinion, there can be strategies which need to be developed. I think those will be sustainable, will make a continuous progress, non-stoppable progress, and which will be multidisciplinary in nature, and which will tackle all the problems we have in a very collaborative work involving breeders, pathologists, entomologists, and agronomists. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for such an enlightening and thought-provoking message. Next, I'm pleased to invite Dr. Ratan Lal, the recipient of World Food Prize 2020, for developing and mainstreaming a soil-centric approach to increasing food production that restores and conserves natural resources and mitigates climate change. Over his career spanning more than 5 decades and 4 continents, Dr. Lal has promoted innovative soil-saving techniques benefiting the livelihoods of more than 500 million smallholder farmers, improving the food and nutritional security of more than 2 billion people, and saving hundreds of millions of hectares of natural tropical ecosystems. Sir, I request you to kindly address the gathering.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I trust you can hear me. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Mahapatra and his team to invite me. It's always a great honor and privilege to be part of such a elite group as gathered today. It's appropriate that I'm following Dr. Wassel between 63 and 1965. Dr. Wassel, Dr. Prodha, Dr. Rajaram, myself were contemporary at IARI. So it's a very great pleasure to be here today. Dr. Mahapatra, I also want to congratulate ICR, especially your visionary leadership. What I heard today, 308 million tons of food grain production went up from 293 million tons in 2019. And more importantly, Dr. Mahapatra, 80 crore people being fed free is really commendable. I salute you and ICR and the other colleagues for doing that. I want to say a few words about the UN Food Systems Summit that just ended on 23rd of September. UN Food Systems Summit focused not on production, agriculture, but on food system. And that's a deviation. And the food system is a series of activity in which production is only one. So the other activities in addition to growing food is transporting, processing, distributing, value addition, preparing food, consuming food, and disposing the food waste. And all those components put together is what they defined food production, food systems. And this food system, of course, come from agriculture, fishery, forestry. So all those components together. And that was a major deviation from the focus just on production agriculture. The Food System Summit was felt necessary because of the limitations in the present food production system. And the limitations that were highlighted that the food systems have failed to end hunger and malnutrition. This has been highlighted by many speakers this morning. They have not provided adequate, nutritious food, healthy diet, and safe food. 2 billion people are malnourished, and that has been mentioned very strongly. The third reason they wanted to focus on food system was that they have degraded soils, polluted water, aggravated global warming, dwindled biodiversity, and denuded landscapes. And lastly, the focus on food system was because 1/3 of all greenhouse gases are emitted by the world food system. If you take agriculture alone, the contribution is only about 12 to 15%. But when you take food systems as a whole, all those components that are listed, the contribution to anthropogenic greenhouse gases is 1/3. Therefore, the focus was not on sustainable agriculture, but the focus was on sustainable food systems. That brings me to the question of what is a sustainable food system. We always talk about sustainable agriculture. A sustainable food system is the one that delivers food security and nutritional security for all in such a way that the economic, social, and environmental bases are maintained to generate food security and nutrition for future generations are not compromised. So the concept has changed considerably. Then the question which has been discussed is, what do you do to transform from the current toward sustainable food system. And the sixth point that was discussed was restoring soil and biophysical environment. Number one, improving social equity and addressing human dimensions. Number three, adopting prudent governance. Number four, identifying and implementing site-specific game-changing solutions. And number five, strengthening human resource development. And number six, creating global science policy interface for sustainable food system development. And these are some of the points that have been highlighted in the Secretary General report. And one part which I was specifically involved among the three committees that I was involved was the topic called nature positive food production system. Nature positive. What is nature positive food production system? It has the following 5 criteria. Number one, mitigate climate change. Number two, reduce emissions and increase carbon capture in the terrestrial biosphere. Number three, regenerate and protect critical ecosystems. Number five, reduce food waste and energy uses. And number six, without undermining health or nutritional diet for all. Health and nutritional diet for all was very significantly mentioned, and it has been mentioned today as well. So what are the examples of some nature positive agricultural systems? Narrowing down from food to agriculture, I list the following: conservation agriculture, regenerative agriculture, agroecology, agroforestry, integration of crops with trees and livestock, practices with a positive soil carbon ecosystem budget, focus on CNPK rather than on NPK. There is a difference. And number six, balanced use of plant nutrients. And the last one, drip fertigation rather than flood irrigation. Secretary General specifically mentioned regenerative agriculture and agroecology. Regenerative agriculture, the way people define it, is not a one particular strategy. It is a combination of many site-specific strategies, but their basic principles are very important. And the basic principle is eco-innovation, non-carbon energy driven by a circular economy and green infrastructure, and recarbonization of the terrestrial biosphere. That means putting back carbon in soil and vegetation. This concept brings to the focus on urban farming. Urban farming in a way, not the traditional one where you grow crops in urban lots or in the vicinity of urban center, but recycling water and nutrients coming into megacities such as Delhi, Mumbai, Calcutta, etc., and producing food by soil-less media. And the soil-less media specifically that are highlighted are aquaculture, aeroponics, hydroponics, and those which do not involve soil, but it involves a recycling of the nutrients coming into the megacities and producing certain amount of food within the city limits. For example, 15 to 20%. One thing which I would like to emphasize from my side, that if we keep these goals in mind, several things that have to happen in transforming the thinking that we have talked about agriculture today. And we heard many other thinking about biofortification, other. But some of the other things that came up are recarbonization of soil and the biosphere, pro-nature agriculture, saving land for nature. And the reason that point is important is because 5 billion hectares are being 40% of the land is now under agriculture. We don't need that much if we adopt climate resilient and eco-intensification, rhizospheric processes, phytobiome management, robotic agriculture. Remember the drudgery involved, so robotic and drone, etc. Urban farming, sky farming, space farming, hypergravity conditions. You know, we are sending people to Mars and Moon. Obviously, we got to learn how to produce food without gravity condition. Farming soil. We always talk about farming crops. Farming soil is a different concept because it means plants which generate molecular-based signals, different kind of breeding. And those signals are specific to different stresses, biotic and abiotic. And those molecular-based signals can be detected by remote sensing so that intervention can happen before major damage comes through. And farming carbon. Farming carbon means paying farmer for growing carbon on their farm. A fair and transparent price. And the one part which I like very much is the One Health concept. One Health concept, by the way, came from Indore, India in 1918. It was a concept which was a speech of the then president of the Indian Science Academy, Sir Albert Howard. His presidential lecture to Indian Science Academy was the health of soil, plants, animal, and people is one and indivisible. Unfortunately, very sadly, the concept of One Health presented by the Secretary General of the United Nations on the 23rd of September was health of animal and human is interlinked. He did not go all the way, and I hope that particular omission will be rectified in time. So the concept that we think these days on One Health is that the health of soil, plants, animal, people, ecosystems, and the planetary processes is one and indivisible. Therefore, if the health of soil goes down, health of everything else goes down with it. I think these concepts which came after the World Food System Summit are very important. Personally, I participated in several things. And of course, as you would expect, I came up with the message of one mantra, that is healthy soil equal to healthy diet, equal to healthy people, equal to healthy environment. And I think that's a mantra that we should really promote, that healthy diet comes from healthy soil. And one last point I'd like to mention, again, something very close to my heart. The people are a mirror image of the soil that they live on. When people are starving, suffering, and miserable, they pass their suffering onto the land and soil. And unfortunately, this soil reciprocates. And this vicious cycle needs to be broken by improving soil health. Your initiative to take today's World Soil Day celebration, I salute you for your leadership and commend you for all the great work that ICR is doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you profusely. Rita.
Thank you very much, sir, for putting forth the concepts of farming soils and farming carbon and stressing the importance of nature-friendly food production systems. Next, we have with us Mr. Tomio Shichiri, FAO representative in India. Mr. Shichiri, a Japanese national born in Osaka, holds an MSc degree in forestry from Yale University, USA. He holds BA in economics from Doshisha University and Nihon University, Japan. May I now request Mr. Shichiri to address the gathering.
Namaste. Respected Dr. Mahatora, Secretary, Department of Agriculture, Research, Education, Ministry of Agriculture, Farmer Welfare, also Director General, ICAR. Dr. T.R. Sharma, DDG, ICAR, World Food Prize, Laureates, Professor M.S. Swaminathan, Dr. G.S. Ksa, Dr. Boyce, Dr. S.K. Wassel, Dr. Ratan La, and then Mr. Bishop, WFP representative India, and then Dr. A.K. Singh, Director ICAR. Distinguished delegate, colleague, and friends. I'm taking this opportunity to convey my best wish for World Food Days 2021 and congratulations on the World Food Days celebration event with the World Food Prize Laureate. World Food Prize is the most prestigious global award recognizing exceptional individuals who have worked at any point within the full scope of the food system. It is my honor and pleasure in today's event together. World Food Day theme this year, our action are our futures, call for the transformation of agri-food system to ensure that everyone, everywhere has access to enough, affordable, safe, and nutritious food to lead active and healthy lives. This is closely related to 4 Betters. 4 Better is FAO new strategic framework from 2022. Better production, better nutrition, better environment, and better life. Each year, over 150 countries around the world held events to mark World Food Days, making it one of the most celebrated international days of the year. On this 16 October in 1945, FAO was formed. Then, with more than 3 billion people now, almost 40% of the world population, who cannot afford a healthy diet and obesity, overweight. On the rise in all regions, we must do better. The World Food Days 2021 is the second year to be marked during the ongoing COVID pandemic, which has had a devastating impact on food security and nutrition worldwide. Well before the COVID pandemic, the world was already not on track to meet its commitment to end world hunger and malnutrition in all its forms by 2030. Now, the pandemic has made this significantly more challenging. As you know, India during the COVID lockdowns faced a huge challenge in delivering food to a migrating population and those in the countryside who depend on the public distribution system. Large food stock held by Food Corporation of India play a critical role in preventing the COVID crisis from turning into major food insecurity. Through the PDS, central and state government were able to distribute about 23 million metric tons of food grain in 3 months, namely from April to June 2020. At the time, the Empowerment Group number 5 on the subject of the facilitation, supply chain, and logistic management. It was created by Government of India, we, FAO, IFAD, and WFP, as a Roma-based agency, jointly provided weekly status recommendation report, as well as agriculture-related subsector advisory report, and submitted. The suddenness of the crisis meant that some gap remained. The food security of vulnerable population, which migrant, rural, poor, elderly, women, and children, was adversely impacted during the lockdown. Many of those migrant workers and households did not have access to the PDS in the city. They had moved for work. The government of India then responded with a One Nation, One Ration scheme to improve food accessibility. The report of the government of the India's Ministry of Health and Family Welfare from the first round of the 5th National Family Health Survey suggested that nutrition-related indicators have worsened in most states. The survey covered 17 states and 5 union territories, which comprise 54% of Indian population covered. In addition, findings from the Comprehensive National Nutrition Survey have highlighted the role of micronutrient, malnutrition, anemia, and other micronutrient deficiency. By 2050, India is projected to have population of 1.64 billion. For Indians to eat better, India must produce better. A transformative shift in the dietary pattern and nutrition transition requires a shift in production. The agri-food system is the most important part of the Indian economy, covering 11.24% of the world arable land areas and 4% of the world renewable water resource. India produces sufficient food, feed, and fiber to sustain about 18% of the world population as of 2020. Agriculture contributes about 16.5% to the country's overall GDP and employs nearly 42% of the country's workforce. There is urgent need for reorientation of the long-term direction of agri-food system to not only enhance farmers' income, but also better access to safe and nutritious food. Additionally, the agri-food system needs to be reoriented to minimize cost on the environment and the climate, highlighting the urgent need to transform the way the country produces and consumes food. The more diverse an agri-food system, the greater inability to adapt to climate change and other shocks like COVID pandemic. We can tackle poverty and structural inequality by boosting food value chain in poor communities through technology transfer and certification program. We need to strengthen the resilience of the world's most vulnerable to economic adversity, for example, through in-kind or cash support program to make less impact of pandemic-style shock or food price volatilities. Globally, if you estimate that as much as 40 to 50 billion US dollar in annual investment on target intervention are needed to end hunger by 2030. There are plenty of low-cost, high-impact projects that can help hundreds of millions of people overcome hungers. Government and institutions can make healthy diet a reality for all through strategic, integrated, and inclusive approach across sectors. Innovation, indigenous knowledge, women, and youth all have a role to play achieving greener, fairer, and better world for all. Better policy and legislation, investment, and good governance can build nature-friendly, sustainable agri-food systems that are more inclusive and resilient. We all need to make food choice with responsible sourcing that improve both our health and our agri-food system, respect food and food producers, and join global solidarity efforts wherever possible. Make healthy eating a part of your daily life. Choose locally produced, seasonal, and sustainable, and reduce waste to be more aware of your carbon footprint. This will, in turn, put the right policy in place, influence agriculture method, and motivate greater investment in these products. Private sector, private company need to be socially responsible for support public health goals, from following national priority and guideline to transforming operation and approach. Private company can help to produce or promote nutritious and safe food at affordable price at all, contributing sustainable healthy diet. Farmers, men and women in agriculture, fisheries, and forestry are our primary source for nutritious food. As a guardians of the planet nature resource. Their decisions lie at the roots of transforming agri-food system. Innovative technology and training, finance, incentive, and social protection can help farmers provide sustainable, healthy diet locally and globally. Research and academic institutions have the tool to support decision makers in the world agri-food systems. Knowledge, innovation, and capacity building are the paths to change. They need to strengthen data collection, analyze, and monitoring at national level. By capturing, harmonizing the breaking down data across all aspects of the food system and fostering knowledge sharing for all, research and academia can be more inclusive. Since 2019, FAO has initiated national dialogue along with the NITI Aayog and the Ministry of Agriculture, Farmer Welfare jointly to envision the kind of agri-food system that the country will need by 2030. This decade view allows aligning activity with the SDG as well as identify the short-term, mid-term, and longer-term change that will need it. The focus of the dialogue is on enhancing farmers' income, nutritional security, and sustainable food system. The dialogue will conclude with a set of recommendations to address the challenge at the national level while also keeping in mind India's global commitment. So those information is available at FAO India's website. 8 thematic paper is already uploaded, including everybody talking about dietary diversity for nutrition and safe food. I think this is a good reference. FAO will continue to support India for transformation of agri-food system through the promotion of agroecological approach, focusing on sustainable natural resource management with the social aspect that must be addressed in the system is to be fair and inclusive, thereby creating sustainable agri-food system which can lead to better production, better nutrition, better environment, and better life, leaving no one behind. Thank you very much. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you, Tomio.
Thank you, sir, for such a beautiful message. The next, I'm pleased to invite Mr. Bishop Parajuli, Country Director to World Food Program. Mr. Parajuli brings 35 years of distinguished experiences in development, humanitarian affairs, diplomacy, fundraising, and management in over 10 countries in Asia, Middle East, and Africa. Mr. Parajuli, the floor is yours.
Namaste, good evening, and thank you very much for having me. It's really very humbling and honoring to join this distinguished crowd and listen to this fantastic conversation. Indeed, I want to really commend all the World Food Laureates for their time and therefore listen. I was really humbled to meet Professor Swaminathan 2 days back in Chennai. I also listened to some of the other conversation just now. Really, it's breathtaking to hear all of you, Dr. Gurudev, Kush, Dr. Howard, Dr. Ratan Lal, Dr. Surender Wassel, and of course, Dr. Mahapatra and Dr. Nivas. And indeed, I want to really congratulate ICAR for this fantastic gathering. And I want to say happy birthday to FAO and my friend Tomio. Really honor to celebrate the World Food Day like this. It couldn't be better. Lot have been talked and a lot have been heard. I want to share just a few highlights from a mix of different angles. Indeed, sadly, globally, we still have a challenge of hunger. 811 million people, as FAO, WFP, and AFAD estimate, they still don't have enough to eat across the world because of climate change, because of conflicts, and because of economic access opportunities. And sadly, the pandemic 2021 has added an extra burden. The chronic hunger, from chronic hunger to more acute hunger, increased number of people from 130 million to 270 million. It's not that there is not enough food in the world. You know, gratitude to scientists, agriculture scientists, breeders. We have enough food in the world. The problem is access, and that is a huge challenge. And also, we are faced, of course, going forward with the issue of climate change and increase in population, as we heard, which is also going to burden us in future in terms of increased difficulty in access of food. And the other complexity which exists now is the nutrition security, not necessarily food security, but adequate food with micronutrient, vitamin, and mineral. As we heard pretty well, people don't have access to buy vegetables and fruits and animal protein, or food habits restricts those consumption. Therefore, it's really fundamental. We need to look at it in a multiple way. Indeed, as Dr. Lal mentioned, the Food System Summit gave a new beginning. It has put a onus in a multiple ways to look at access to food or the future of food and sustainable food. And that's what we need to work going forward. And I hope there will be another revolution, not only with the plant breeder, but agri-system participants, involving scientists, involving engineers, involving private sector, and also involving cross-section of partners and humanity to bring that, to save the earth from excessive use of water for producing one food and leaving nothing behind for the second, third generation going forward. So therefore, it's really important. And also, in spite of all the challenges, production, everything, there would always be hungry people. And therefore, countries and world looking after to protect them, to provide needed food support through direct food access or cash or other means, so that no one goes hungry. And coming back to India, we have some great examples we have seen during the COVID time. In addition to these major 3 programs, there was a reference to public distribution with 800 million covering. There are also 2 fantastic programs in India, like midday meal. 120 million children are served warm meal every day in school. There are 120 million women and children are provided with additional nutritional support just to address their nutritional need during the period of 1,000-day period, from conception to nourishing time and to the children under 2 years. And indeed, these efforts combined with the recently announced initiative by the government of India, Honorable Prime Minister, food fortification, plus including meal to children in preschools, are excellent examples to address underlying challenges of concern of malnutrition, which particularly stunting and anemia, which is being observed extremely high in India in relative terms. So therefore, important to work towards leaving no one behind and ensuring that everyone receives it these support. In fact, the World Food Program has been working in number of best practices, innovative method to ensure that those practices can be scaled up and take over. And you know, some of these example of one nation, one card, where the country India with so much migrant population can access food from different part of a country is an excellent example. In addition to the recently introduced food fortification, plus the meals program. Now, going forward, I would say the challenge faces us, including India, is the climate change. How do we adapt to those climate changes? How do we ensure that the vulnerable population, marginal communities, women and children are included into this program and they're ready to respond to the drought, to the flood, or various climate challenges, and the need for a future to bring out seeds of varieties in reference to the point also Dr. Lal mentioned, less water consumption, and maybe moving to more traditional crops. Really, those are important. The other challenge we have is the losses, the significant amount of food losses, which is causing a huge negative impact both to the climate, but to the economy and other concern. And therefore, really, how do we work to prevent it in a different scientific ways, technology, the whole supply chain improvement. And therefore, these food system summit really contributed in many ways, learning from India itself to learning from other countries and the global lesson learned in a different ways. The last point I want to also mention, 2 points I want to mention is the concern of nutrition. Of course, the biofortification, diversification, meal, and these are good way forward. But we need to continue to make sure that people are not withheld by the social taboos and the cultural practices, so not to consume nutritive food, and particularly in India. I've seen it in tribal areas, mere small quantity of rice or bread and very little lentils and vegetables is consumed, and obviously that's not enough for a healthy living. And also ensuring the whole principle of 1,000 days, and particularly that reference made on the brain development taking place 80% or over during the 2 years. Really, it's a huge economic loss. I mean, the general estimation is $1 spent gives $15 economic gain in human development and other things. Really important, those part. The other really critical element is gender, making sure that we have a strong engagement of women and mix of gender in all these efforts, so that the economic transformation takes place across. There is a reference, or studies have been done that by equal involvement of women into these transformative effort, 150 million or so women would be brought out of hunger. And then lastly, preparedness against various challenges are important part of it. And India, we have great example of that in terms of loss of life, access to food, which sadly in many other countries doesn't exist. And similar program like safety net, which exists in India, doesn't exist in many countries. So I believe that India offers a good example of lesson learned, South-South cooperation across in many fronts to transform the food system going forward. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I hope together we can address hunger, we can challenge the change of the climate and adopt better, and we achieve the sustainable goal together. Thank you very much indeed for this opportunity. Very grateful, Mr. Mahapatra. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Parzuli. Harita.
Thank you, sir, for such an enlightening message. May now request the chairman to open the session for discussion.
Yeah, so thank you, Rita, for this wonderful comparing, and it's now open for discussion. We have stalwarts. Of course, we are late by 40 minutes. We're supposed to finish by this time, but I would request all of you to cooperate and help us out so that we listen to others at least for a few more minutes, maybe around 20 minutes or so that we can have a very good discussion on several points which have been raised, and there could be additional points, and I'm sure it would be again quite enriching. I'm in this session listening to 7 stalwarts. It has been quite inspiring one side, but also quite pathfinding and suggesting several actions to be taken. So I'll come to these points a little later at the end. So now floor is open for comments, suggestions, and further guidance.
Dr. Mahapatra.
Anyone? Yeah, please.
Dr. Acharya from this side.
Okay.
May I speak?
Yeah,
okay,
so I would request all to be brief so that we can cover as many as possible. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Sir, thank you very much. And indeed, we are putting more emphasis on biofortification. In my opinion, it is digestibility and the assimilation of the nutrients is also very important. What is the use of this when there is no safe water for drinking? This water is contaminated. So let's improve the balanced nutrition through providing pulses, milk, egg, fresh fruits, vegetables. And, let's give more emphasis on restoring our soil and water resources. As very rightly pointed out by Dr. Ratan Lal, he is our Ratan, a very precious gem. And, our soils are not only poor, but our intake of nutrients is also very low. Dr. Khush talked about 3 to 4% organic carbon content. It's not possible for a climate of ours, tropical, subtropical type of climate. And we have the long-term fertilizer experiments running for the last 55 years. The maximum that we could achieve in 55 years is 1.34, that too at a mild climate at Palampur, Himachal Pradesh. Although in all centers, about 21 centers, there is increase in organic carbon content with integrated use of organics and inorganics. So this is one aspect where we have to lay more emphasis on the restoring of our soil health. Let us develop the varieties which are more water and nutrient efficient. Give emphasis on micro irrigation, the drip and sprinkler irrigation rather than the flood irrigation, which will increase the water use efficiency, nutrient use, even to the extent of 90 to 95% water use efficiency with drip irrigation. The conservation agriculture is the answer. Grain to the human being and straw to the soil. This should be our slogan, and what Dr. Ratan Lal has put in: soil, plant, animal, human being, ecosystem health. I would say that the health of any nation depends on the health of the soil. A healthy soil will have healthy people. And this way, more emphasis has to be put on the restoring of our soil and water.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I would suggest not to please repeat, but then give your viewpoints very briefly. So please open for further comments.
Sir, this is
Yes. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Very good evening. And thank you to all the World Food Prize laureates. It was a treat to all of us. It's a nostalgic evening indeed. Professor Ratanlal sir has said many things, sir. One thing I have observed from your talk, that is a One Health concept cannot just be finished with human and animal health unless soil is integrated. Thank you so much for telling this specifically. And kindly educate me, sir, when you said that eco-innovation, definitely that was a catchword. And you said about the soilless farming and the recycling of nutrients and pro-nature agriculture. Kindly educate me, sir, whether it is in vogue in some countries or are we really planning to go ahead with that? Thank you so much.
Okay, so it's a question that you are asking, but anyway, Professor Ratanlal would like to just a minute. Yeah, that's okay. So Professor Ratanlal would like to say something on this.
Sir, he is not here, sir. Here.
Oh, okay, okay. So anyway, so we will go ahead.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Anyone else?
Sir, I do have a question. So my question is to Professor Howard Boyce. If he is available, I can ask him directly.
Okay.
Okay, I'm here.
Hi, Professor. Good evening. I understood hunger index as half of the percentage of population affected, right? So we are going through your index since 2013. And during 2013, it was around 64th place. India was around 64th place. Now it is somewhere in way back to our immediate independence period, 1950s, and the present situation is on par. And as I understood, the diversity of food available to our population is very less. Means it is not even 4 different types of food what we are taking. So it is not at all possible directly by way of supplementing anything or any specific nutrients. Even our government is planning to stop a vitamin A supplement. That's what I heard from some news. What you suggest exactly to directly change the condition of the situation of kids below 5 years, because the percentage affected is more than 50%.
Okay, so your question is well taken. That's what you want, that below 5 years is what could be the measure. That's what you wanted?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Because this will directly impact in the future.
Question is well said. So, okay, Dr. Howard.
Well, I think that supplements and commercial fortification, they're very good. They're very good interventions, but you have to ask yourself, how long are you going to keep doing them? They're more like emergency measures. In the Philippines, they've had a vitamin A supplementation program now for 28 years. So mothers who got vitamin A supplements as children are now bringing their own children to get vitamin A supplements. And pretty soon you're going to have a 3rd generation where the grandmother, the mother, and the child all got vitamin A supplements. When are you going to do something to make sure you have enough vitamin A in the diet? So that's what I think we need to do with agriculture. We have to have goals and make sure that we're headed toward a situation where there are enough nutrients. India had a program called Operation. It's not just biofortification. It's not just food staples. India had a program called Operation Flood, which greatly improved the productivity of the milk milk industry in India. And the supply went up and the price came way down. And when the price comes down, more people can afford milk, more people can consume milk. And milk's a very important food for nutrition in India. So there are things you can do with biofortification food staples. There are things you can do with non-staple foods. And the goal is to get the total supply of minerals and vitamins in agriculture higher and higher and higher. Try to bring the prices down, such as what happened with milk. And then eventually you don't have to keep having these supplementation and fortification programs.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is
Anybody
there any
else?
possibility of breaking the link between money and food? Then only it will be possible for the total population to make it available, possible.
No, it's very difficult, especially the non-staple foods are more expensive. People buy enough food staples to keep from going hungry, and then whatever money they have left over, they spend on non-staple foods. The really nice thing about biofortified varieties is when you switch one for one, you don't eat a kilogram of non-biofortified and you eat a kilogram of biofortified. It costs the same price. So the substitution doesn't cost the family anything. So it helps to improve their vitamin and mineral intake at no extra cost to the family budget. It's a partial solution. It doesn't solve the whole problem, but it helps. It's very cost effective.
Okay, so anybody else would like to enlighten us with more?
Honorable DG, sir.
Yes. Dr. Chandrababu, please go ahead.
Yes. Honorable DG, sir, thank you for the good evening and wonderful series of lectures, sir. First, I have one, of course, input for your submit. This post during the pandemic, we understood the importance of agriculture. So to say, that is the only green shoot which actually kept this entire population in the globe fed with enough food, especially in the Indian context. The post-pandemic also, they say the agriculture is going to be the key in driving the further future economy. Considering the high percentage of young human population in the country and also biodiversity, this has to be converted into wealth or economy. A higher level of investment has to be given to agriculture. So Honorable DG can actually emphasize, this one sensitize our policy makers to invest more in agriculture, especially R&D, so that the country can actually capture this vast human potential and also genetic diversity. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Chandrababu. Okay, so anybody else? Open still. We are 7:14 minutes, 14 minutes past 7, but still we would be extremely happy.
Sir, one more question, sir.
No, you have asked, so let's give opportunity to others, please.
I have got one suggestion to make.
Yeah, please.
Excellent session was in progress, sir, and thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to hear so many laureates. Sir, in my opinion, I think emphasis should also be attached to the reduction of post-harvest and processing losses, value addition to the agricultural produces, in addition to giving importance to the mechanization in agriculture for increasing production and productivity, etc., to enable adequate food to the hungry people.
Okay. That you have provided in the comments box. We have read that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So we are reading all the comments. So you don't have to repeat. So, and they're all recorded also. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. So last maybe 1 or 2 maximum. So if not, so we will move on. Professor R.B. Singh would like to say something.
Sir? Hello, sir. Hello.
Just a minute.
I have one queries as well as one suggestions which can to be input, sir. Hello.
Yes, tell us, Professor Umesh.
Yeah, actually, sir, the thing which hasn't been listened today in the evening, I thought in case of the nutritional point of the view, we have to explore to the underexploited crops also. Because in most of our the remote areas, still the people are having for the hunger of the food, underexploited crops like vegetables, which should be also included and it should be explored. It's my opinion. I don't know, sir. It's my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So, Professor RBC, you would like to say something?
Well, thank you, sir, for the opportunity, but I think it is already beautifully covered. And again, I just wanted to repeat what Ratnalal said. The human health is a mirror image of the soil health. So One Health concept for the world as a whole is a great concept. And I think that has to be understood and followed very strongly. Second thing I would like to say that we must be able to look at our own system to see whether there is any case where we can really document so effectively generation to generation, what we call the epigenetic fixation of stunting and wasting of children. Epigenetic fixation. And this is extremely important to bring about the value of what we call the undernutrition or malnutrition, or the losses that country suffers in billions. Of course, that is the economic loss. But with the genetic total loss, a stunted child breeds only a stunted child, and there is epigenetic fixation of such a trait in years to come. I think this will be a very permanent loss. And I think this has to be kept in mind. And I will finally close by saying that this is where the science responsibility, the humanity component of science, the human aspect of science, with the corporate social responsibility. If they marry, then the entire community of all people, whether private sector, public sector, all will work together for looking at the one who is unreached, for reaching the one who is unreached. And therefore, I feel that there is a very strong need for the science of delivery and science of discovery to be married, and likewise science of communication for taking this message to the masses who are still suffering from the lack of knowledge or the motivation or the incentive. And of course, the investment in agricultural research intensity is so low, which has to be increased so that we can make the things moving. Thank you very much. As a matter of fact, it has been very learning. And
may I put a question, sir? Well, throughout the deliberation, I have seen it is mostly restricted to agriculture sector, but it is a World Food Day. I feel it would have been better that allied sectors should also be coming to the picture, except Professor Ratnalal. It is mostly on the crop-based things, actually. So I'll be happy to see in the next time that allied sector also coming in the same limelight. Besides this, there are a few things I have observed regarding the micronutrients. Probably we need some variety rich in zinc and iron. Besides this, mitigation of the global warming, there should be some much more discussion. It will be helpful for the future. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for this suggestion. So without taking any more time, I believe we should wind up, and it's already 7:20. If there is no other pressing question or points to make, so should we go ahead? So I think, we should wind up, and then we should not delay further. And we have colleagues from far off places, and I believe Dr. Howard Boyce from Philippines, as he said, and I think it will be quite late for him. So what I do is, this is my job to summarize and provide concluding remarks. Of course, I don't want to venture into summarizing each one of your brilliant viewpoints and expositions and presentations, which we immensely benefited from. But few take-home messages which I have noted down. And for us to really prepare action plans. Of course, number one, that we should be certainly focusing on soils and as a whole, the carbon and other aspects of it, which was mentioned, and through conservation agriculture and so on and so forth. So there are a whole lot of issues which are actually associated with it. And Professor Ratan Lal, Dr. Khush, and others, they have very elaborately focused on this aspect. And we need to really build on, how much is it possible, what extent we will be able to increase carbon. And of course, from 0.2, 0.3% to 1%, if we can go, that would be a big jump. So that is, one thing which was very evident from, everybody's, deliberation. And certainly what came out is instead of production, sustainable agriculture and sustainable production systems, this is, sustainable food systems. And certainly, as it was highlighted, it would include everything. In fact, Dr. Jaswant Singh, your point is also included there. And Dr. Boyce Saab, your point is also included there, that when we talk of sustainable food system, it is not just a crop-based food system. And it has been already explained by Dr. Howard Boyce that how Operation Flood helped us, and also various other aspects. So I believe that even mechanization and post-harvest loss minimization, they are also part of the sustainable food system. So sustainable food system, when we talk of, as it was pointed out, that we have to really address all components of it in the food chain, and whatever, whether it is marketing or even enhanced awareness. Dr. Mehta Bamji has pointed out that nutrition literacy, nutrition education is so important, not only for public at large, even for the policymakers and even for the scientists. And everyone needs to be really educated and informed about it. So I think that's another important point which has emerged from the deliberation. And also see, biofortification is one, because that's a very important aspect of staple food getting becoming nutrient dense, and in the process addressing some of these problems. And what was highlighted is having multi-nutrient dense crops, and in the process addressing the malnutrition. A diversified food system, which was also highlighted, and creating awareness more about diversified food system could be elaborate program for the council and also for public at large. And I have requested also our fellows, honorable fellows of the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences to be part of this program, and taking this nutrition literacy to schools, to women, and everybody is also equally important. So focusing on diversified food system, again, emphasized on having food, whether it is vegetables, fruits, or millets, and so on and so forth. So I'll not go into those details, but then all these have been taken and have been taken note of, and we'll certainly work on those. While designing science, certainly use of biodiversity, Dr. Wassel again and again highlighted, Dr. Khush also highlighted, and use of biodiversity not only for nutrition, but also for climate resilience, and enhancing water use efficiency, for instance. So reducing water footprints and addressing the emerging biotic stresses and challenges. They are also highlighted, and certainly we would be strengthening those programs as well. Urban farming was highlighted, and particularly the soilless cultures and recycling of water in the context of quite a bit of wastewater being produced in the urban dwellings. So how do we really make use of that? So one can develop action plan on those aspects, making agriculture ecology and environment friendly and ecosystem to be strengthened in the process. The nature positive food production system which was highlighted again and again, particularly by Professor Ratan Lal, would certainly guide us further. And I did promise earlier that we would be having further deliberation and get advice of Professor Ratan Lal on this. And today he has thrown quite a bit of light onto various aspects, whether it is the 6-point agenda, which was highlighted to increase improving social equity, for instance, prudent governance, and so on and so forth, including global science policy interface. And similarly, the 5 points related to nature positive food production systems and other points which he highlighted. A lot more to take home back to further deliberate on each one of those issues and build programs. And I'm sure a greater investment, as it has been pointed out by many speakers and others subsequently during deliberation discussion, that we need to have more investment. Dr. Wassel also highlighted this point, and partnership with public, and building more trust, and by way of sharing material and otherwise. And I believe that would be key to our success. Similarly, Tomio has already given lots of points for us to actually work on, and so also Mr. Prajoli. So I'll not go into those details. And lastly, Professor R.B. Singh has given an enormous task for us, for the country. To work with a global community, because we can't work in isolation. It's a very challenging area, that how do we understand the epigenetic fixation of stunting and wasting? And that's a real challenge to science, to establish that and then see if it is, then it would have a far more profound effect on generations if we are missing the target on working on our nutrition outcomes. So that is something which is very, very fascinating, Professor R.B. Singh Saab. And so actually our objective was not to really confine to crops. We did invite several World Food Prize laureates, and covering all aspects, including fishery sector, animal husbandry sector, and so on and so forth. And but then we have been fortunate to get only 5 of those very, very deserving and quite knowledgeable people with us this evening, including Professor Swaminathan, and his message is also having great value and great importance for us. And always he has been the pillar of our, all that we do in the field of agriculture in this country, and also at the global level, a known figure and guiding global agriculture as well as national agriculture. And so his viewpoints are always having great relevance and importance to us. And we would certainly work on those. And all viewpoints are recorded. So I'll not be able to really go into all that which has been spoken. And it's already 7:30. I have taken 10 minutes. I don't want to take more time. So all the comments which are given in the chat box, and all words and phrases spoken by all the stalwarts. All are recorded. And we would certainly analyze to build our programs, strengthen our activities. ICAR is an organization which is always ready to learn and to modify its programs, always ready to do that, and in the process evolve. And that's how this 90 plus old organization is still aspiring to go up and occupy the zenith. And it would continue to do that. And ICR at 100 is being planned. In another 8 years' time, we will be reaching there. And we will certainly reinvent ourselves during these 8 years and build all those areas where we have gaps or we are advised to really focus on. And this today's deliberation is one step in that direction. And we would continue deliberating in this fashion, starting from this year onwards. And this is India's Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav, 75th year of India's independence. And as a part of that program, we planned this one. And we have many other things. We have 75 lecture series, and Professor R.B. Singh delivered the last lecture last week. And we would continue having these lectures. And 31 lectures are over. And we will be listening to various other stalwarts in the field and related fields to learn from them so that we build our programs further. We would like to evolve, not to close our minds, not to close our ears and close our eyes. So we would like to learn and evolve and get guided by from your rich experience, certainly. And we are open. Please keep writing to us, communicating to us, so that we enrich ourselves in the process. With these words, I stop here, and thank you very much. And last words of Dr. A.K. Singh, Director IRI. So back to Dr. Dr. A.K. Singh, please.
You are muted.
Thank you, sir, for wonderful concluding remarks. On behalf of the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, the Indian Agriculture Research Institute, and my personal behalf, it is my proud privilege to propose a hearty vote of thanks on the successful conclusion of this evening program on global food and nutrition security to meet the Sustainable Development Goals during and after COVID-19. And this was organized on the occasion of World Food Day. This evening, we are blessed by presence of 5 World Food Prize laureates, including architect of Green Revolution, Professor M.S. Swaminathan. Yesterday evening, I had a video call with him, and he personally wished the successful organization of this event. He wanted to join live, but he had some health issue, and therefore he could not be with us. The architect of Rice Revolution, Dr. Khush, soil-centric approach for regenerative agriculture, Professor Ratan Lal, biofortification, Dr. S K Wassel, and policy intervention for taking forward the biofortified crops, Dr. Howard Boyce. I am deeply indebted to each one of them for their valuable suggestions and providing the roadmap to achieve zero hunger goal. I would also like to thank Mr. Tomio Suchiri, FAO Country Director and Representative in India, and Mr. Vishal Parajuli, UN World Food Program Representative and Country Director to India, for their gracious presence and valuable remarks. My heartfelt thanks are also due to former Assistant Director General FAO, Professor R.B. Singh, and who gave a very daunting challenge to us as the chairman remarked about the complexity of epigenetics of malnourishment and how do we address. And it was very appropriately referred by Howard Boyce in his remark to one of the questions that we can't depend for very long on the fortification, which can be immediate goal but I think biofortification is something that will address these kinds of problems related to epigenetic changes as well. We also had with us former Secretary DARE and DGICR, Dr. Punjab Singh, all through. I'm thankful to him for his gracious presence on this occasion and the exemplary leadership that he has provided to nation food security. I'm also thankful to all the DDGs, the Vice Chancellors of the State Agriculture Universities who had joined in large number. We had almost 480 plus at one point of time people with us, all the Assistant Director Generals in ICR, various scientists from ICR system, students, for joining the events in a very large number. I would also like to thank Dr. D.K. Adwa, ADG Seas, and Dr. T.R. Sharma, Deputy Director General Crop Science at ICR, for their meticulous planning and execution of this event. Finally, I would like to thank Dr. Tulochan Mahapatra, Director General ICR and Secretary DARE, who is the brain behind this brainstorming system. With his visionary leadership to National Agriculture Research System, country is bound to achieve food and nutritional security. Once again, I thank each one of you. Harita, special thanks to you for organizing this program so wonderfully. Thank you, one and all. Thank you very much and wish you a happy World Food Day and happy birthday, FAO. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. A.K. Singh. Thanks to all the World Food Prize laureates for joining us today. It was a wonderful evening and so much of learning from each one of you and so much of action plan, action points for us and to work on, and we'll prepare action plans and send to each one of you for your suggestions. And I know certainly Dr. Tomio and Dr. Prajoli, thanks for joining us. Thanks from my side. And Professor Punjab Singh, and I missed you, but we will listen to you some other occasion. And certainly Professor Arbit Singh and all other stalwarts who have joined, and and my colleague Dr. T.R. Sharma, who actually immediately responded positively and followed up with action. So thank you very much. And Professor Kus, thank you so much for joining us. And we take this opportunity to express our gratitude. And we'll build on